We continue now at the top of Daf Mem Tes Amud Aleph and Meseches Eruvin. This is Eruvin Daf 49a. The Gemara here is discussing a case where you have three chatzeros all next to each other, and the outer chatzeros make Eruvs with the middle chatzer. So the one on the left makes an Eruv with the middle chatzer, the one on the right makes an Eruv with the middle chatzer. And Rabbi Shimon said the middle chatzer can carry back and forth to the outer ones, and vice versa, but the outer ones can't carry to one another. That's what the Mishnah said. So Rav explained as follows. On the previous Amud, Rav Yehuda quoted Rav, and Rav explained that when we say that the middle one can transfer to the outer ones and the outer ones to the middle one, that's only Rabbi Shimon's opinion. But the Chachamim say the outer ones can carry their stuff to the inner one, that's fine, but the inner one cannot carry his stuff to the outer ones because you can't have it both ways. You can't say I'm making an Eruv with the guy on the left and also making an Eruv with the guy on the right. You got to pick one or the other. So that's what Rav said. And now Rav Yehuda says that's what I quoted to Shmuel in the name of Rav, and Shmuel responded that he had a different approach, a different understanding to the Machlokas Rabbi Shimon and the Chachamim, and we're going to explain this Gemara according to Rashi's preferred explanation, which is what Rashi calls Veloshan Achron. We're not going to get into the rejected explanation of Rashi. So now Shmuel says as follows: Av zu divrei Rabbi Shimon. What you're quoting in the name of the Chachamim, according to me, is actually the opinion of Rabbi Shimon. Meaning, according to Shmuel, Rabbi Shimon says the outer ones can carry their stuff to the inner one, but the inner one cannot carry his stuff to the outer one. That's actually Rabbi Shimon's opinion, not the Chachamim. The Chachamim are even more strict, and they say that such an Eruv doesn't work at all, and no one can carry their stuff from one Chatzar to the other. In other words, Shmuel is strict, like one more level stricter. Rabbi Shimon, according to Rav, says totally permitted. You can carry things back and forth from the middle to the outer to the middle. And the Chacham are the ones that say, no, only from the outer to the middle, not from the middle to the outer. And then then Shmuel says, no. Rabbi Shimon is the one that says this strictness that you had in the Chachamim. The outer to the middle is okay, but the middle to the outer is not okay. And the Chachamim are even more strict. They say the whole thing doesn't work. So the Gemara now says, Tanya Kavasei de Rabbi Yehuda Aliva de Shmuel. We have a Brisa that follows this more strict opinion, this opinion of Shmuel. The Brisa says as follows: Amar Rabbi Shimon says, "Lama hadavar dama." What's this comparable to? L'shalosh chatzeros hapsucho zu lazu psuchos l'rishas harabim. You have three chatzeros that open up to each other, and they're open to rishas harabim. Irvu shtayim im hamtzois. The two outer ones make an eruv with the middle one. Zu mavia misoch beis of ocheles. This one can bring its stuff from the house and eat. V'zu mavia mitoch beis of ocheles. This one can bring from its chatzer to the inner one and eat its stuff. Zu mechazeres mosrol l'soch beisa. This one can also bring anything that was extra back to its house. V'zu mechazeres mosrol l'soch beisa. And the other one can also return stuff. In other words, you can read that simply like Shmuel. The people on the outside can bring their stuff to the middle and then return whatever's left over. Avol chachamim orim, but the chachamim say shloshan asuros. There's no caring at all among these chatzeros. Exactly the lashon Shmuel said up here. Avol chachamim orim shloshan asuros. The Gemara now says v'azdo Shmuel atayme. Shmuel actually follows his own opinion somewhere else. Rashi here explains, V'azda Shmuel l'taime da'amar af Rabbi Shimon. Shmuel says, even according to Rabbi Shimon, ein shtei reshuyos mishtamshos l'reshus achas. That even Rabbi Shimon is strict. What Rav said in the Chachamim is actually Rabbi Shimon's opinion. That according to Rabbi Shimon, you can't have that middle chutzner go in two directions. It can't be pulled in two separate directions. Where does he say that? D'amar Shmuel, because Shmuel said, chutzner shebein shnei mavoos. Let's say you have a chutzner that's between two alleyways. Irva im shnehem. Let's say it makes an eruv with both of them. Asura im shnehem. It is asur with both of them. Lo irva im shnehem. Let's say it doesn't join the eruv. Oseres al shnehem. Then it asurs both of them. Haisa ve'echad regilo ve'echad ein regilo. Let's say this chutzner often uses one of the mavuis, one of the alleyways, but doesn't use the other one. Zesha regilo bo asur. The one it uses is asur because it didn't join an eruv. It needs to make an eruv with that mavui. V'zesh ein regilo bo. If it never walks into the other mavui, mutter, it's not going to be a problem at all. Rashi over here explains, Chatzer shebein shnei mavoos psucha l'shnei. And again, you have a chatzer that is open to two alleyways. Hachi garsinon irva im shneien asur im shneien. Meaning, afilu Rabbi Shimon. Even Rabbi Shimon, this Shmuel is following Rabbi Shimon. Even according to Rabbi Shimon, this is going to be a problem. This middle chatzer, so to speak. In this case, it's not between two chatzeros, but it's between two alleyways. V'hainu Shmuel ataymi. This is Shmuel according to his reason. D'amar Shmuel halacha gedivrei hamekel be'eruv. Because really Shmuel should paskin like Rabbi Shimon. Because Rabbi Shimon is the lenient one, and by eruv, and we go like the lenient opinion. V'yavashari Rabbi Shimon b'ha lo avar Shmuel asurim shneim. Why is Shmuel saying asur for this middle guy or this middle chatzer in this case to carry? It must be because this follows Shmuel's opinion that the middle one can't pull itself in two directions, And then again, this statement of Shmuel is continued. Lo irva im shnein. If it didn't make an eruv, lo irva lo imzu v'lo imzu. This chutzner in the middle of the two mavui didn't make an eruv. Oseres al shnein. Then it's going to be a problem. Milahotzi mechatzer sein lemavui. Nobody in these mavuis can carry from their chutzner to the mavui. Because this chutzner is also part of these mavuis. Uses both of these mavuis. He needs to join the eruv. If he doesn't join the eruv, then they're going to have a problem. And then, of course, it said again, if during the weekdays this particular chutzner only uses one mavui, he's only going to answer one. This middle chutzner didn't make an eruv with any. The one it usually uses is going to cause a problem. He needs to join the eruv there. The other one is going to be the other one's going to be mutter. So those are all Shmuel's statements. And again, Shmuel is l'taime because Shmuel says, even though Shmuel paskins like the lenient opinion, Shmuel holds that Rabbi Shimon is a little more machmir than Rav holds Rabbi Shimon is. And the Gemara now continues with a statement from Rav bar Rav Huna that adds on to Shmuel's case. Amar Rav bar Rav Huna says, Irva im she'ena regila bo. Let's say this particular chutzner, again, that's in between these two mavuis, decides to join an eruv with the one that he usually doesn't use that mavui. So then hutter regila liatzmo. The other one, which he usually uses, actually just becomes totally mutter on its own. Because what's happening there is the chutzner saying, I don't want to be part of you for Shabbos. I want to join this other mavui for Shabbos. I'm going to be mesalik myself. I'm removing myself. And now that mavui on its own can make its own eruv and doesn't need to worry about that chutzner. V'yamar Rav bar Rav Huna mar Shmuel, and furthermore, Rav bar Rav Huna says in the name of Shmuel, im irva regila la'atzmo. Let's say the one that usually this chutzner uses that makes its own eruv, that mavui. V'zeh she'enu regila bo lo eruv, and the other one that the chutzner doesn't use doesn't even bother making an eruv at all. V'hi atzmo lo irva, and the chutzner in the middle doesn't join any eruv. We just say, okay, you're going to be part of the one, you should use that for Shabbos, you use the, so to speak. You're not really going to use it because you didn't make an eruv, but you're part of that other mavui for Shabbos. We're not going to allow you to aser this other mavui. This is really an example where we force people not to act like stone. You have nothing to lose over here if we throw you to the other mavui, so therefore why should you aser it? Rashi over here says, we don't want this chutzner in the middle to prohibit this other chutzner that made an eruv. Because this guy in the middle is not losing anything anyway. He never made an eruv. Midastom, that would be midastom. When it came to stom, even when they weren't losing anything, they didn't want to help their friend. That's why in this case, we push the chutzner that's in the middle and say, you know what, you're now part of the other mavui. You're not going to prohibit this mavui that you usually traverse in. Midastom, again, is shali. What's mine is mine. I don't want to share mine. So in that situation, Rav bar Rav Huna says this chutzner, this particular mavui that made the eruv is going to be okay. Gemara now continues. Amar Rav Yudah mar Shmuel. Rav Yudah says in the name of Shmuel, Hamakbid ale ruvo ein eruvo eruv. If somebody is makbid on his eruv, he doesn't want to share that food with others, the eruv is no good. Why? Because ma shemo, eruv shemo. Because it's called an eruv. The whole point is it's a joining together. You can't be makbid on it. Rashi says, Hamakbid ale ruvam yochal echad mi bnei chaburas hapas shenos anhu. When you make an eruv, usually everybody gives a little bread to the eruv. If one of the people is saying, well, I don't want anyone to eat my bread, then that really is not a good eruv, because eruv shemo, shiukulan u'ravin u'murutzin bo, everyone needs to mix and want it and desire it. The whole point is one shouldn't protest against his friend. Ela shutfus nochav areva, it should be a pleasant shutfus. So that's why Shmuel says that's going to be a problem if there's a strictness about the eruv. Rabbi Chanina says, no, eruv, it's still a good eruv. Ela shenikra me'anshe Vardina. He's considered one of the people of Vardina that are like stingy people, but the eruv is still good. Amar Rav Yudah mar Shmuel. Rav Yudah says in the name of Shmuel, Hacholek es eruvo einu eruv. If someone divides up the eruv, it's not going to be a good eruv. Rashi here explains, Hacholek b'shnei kelim einu eruv. Let's say somebody takes the eruv, divides it amongst two kelim, that's not going to be good. Mishum haytaima gufe, for the same reason. Demashmo eruv shemo, because it's got to be mixed together. So if you're going to divide it, not mix it all together, it's going to be a problem. Gemara says, 1 second, come on, Beis Shammai. Who does that follow? That sounds like Beis Shammai we just quoted previously. The Tanya, we learned in a brayso, chamisha shegavu es Eruvin. Let's say 5 people collect the food of the Eruv, unisanu b'shnei kelim, and they put it in 2 separate kelim. Beishamai omrim ein ze Eruv. Beishamai say it's not a good Eruv. Beis Hillel omrim harei ze Eruv. Beis Hillel say it is a good Eruv. So apparently, what? So the Rav Yehuda in the name of Shmuel here is following Beishamai. Gemara says no. Afilu tema Beis Hillel. It could be he follows Beis Hillel. Adkan lo kamri Beis Hillel hasam el demalion lemona vayaser. What Beis Hillel was saying that it's okay is in a situation where the kli didn't hold all the food, it was extra, you needed another kli. That's fine. But if you go ahead and divide it when it could have fit into one kli, that already is going to be a problem. Gemara now says, V'tarti lamali. So why does Shmuel need to make 2 statements? Shmuel here makes one statement that if you're strict about the Eruv, it's not a good Eruv. Makes another statement if you divide the Eruv, it's not a good Eruv. Those certainly sound similar. They're both based on the fact that it's called Eruv. It needs to be mixed together. Gemara says tzrichi, so the Gemara says no, we need both statements of Shmuel. The iyash minan hasa mishum dekapit, because if you only have it in a case where the guy is strict, okay, so there he's actually strict. But when it's just physically divided, but there's no strictness about it, maybe it wouldn't be a problem. V'yash minan hacha mishum depalge, the same the other way around. If you only have the case where it's physically divided, there at least it's physically divided. The palge miflik, it's actually split. But over there, you would say where it's not physically split, it's mixed together. Tzricha, maybe there it wouldn't be true. This halacha tzricha. That's why you need both statements. And the Gemara continues. Amar le Rabbi Abel, Rav Yehuda, bevei matzar to devei Rav Zakkai. Rav Abba said to Rav Yehuda in the Aleph press of Rav Zakkai, he said as follows: Amar Shmuel hacholek es Eruv o einu Eruv. Did Shmuel really say that if one divides the Eruv among various kalim, that it's not going to be a good Eruv? V'yoamar Shmuel, but Shmuel said, Bayis shemenichen bo Eruv, the house where the Eruv is being placed. Again, you collect food from all the different residents of the Chotzer, and you place the food into one house. So the owner of that house, he doesn't need to put any bread into that container. He doesn't need to actually join the Eruv with bread. So now the Gemara says, my time. Well, what's the reason for the statement of Shmuel? La mishum damar. Isn't it because we say the cave and the monach besala, since the owner has bread in his own basket, command the monach chachadami. It's as if it's in this basket, meaning you don't need to put it all in the same basket. He already has his own bread in his own basket, and that counts for the Eruv. So hachanami here also, cave and the monach besala. When you divide it up into different kalim, since it's placed in a basket, command the monach chachadami. It's as if it's all together. So he said that has nothing to do with the reason. Amar Lei said back to him, Hasam afal pishein pas. Over there, you don't need any bread at all. The owner of the house where the Eruv is doesn't need to have any bread at all. My time, what's the reason? To kulu hachadair, because everyone lives here. The whole point of an Eruv is as if we all live in this house. This guy actually lives in the house, so he doesn't need any bread. Amar Shmuel says, Eruv mishum kinyan. The reason why Eruv works is because of kinyan. It's like an acquisition. When you have an Eruv, it's as if everyone is acquiring a residence in this house. V'im tomar. So if you're going to ask, Mimnei ma'in konin b'mo, why don't they use money? Everyone should make a kinyan with money. Mimnei she'ina mitzuya b'arvei Shabbos, because money's not as commonly found on Erev Shabbos. Bread is something that everybody has Erev Shabbos. It's easy to use for an Erev. Gemara says, Heicha di'irev mihu likni. Well, if you do use money, it should work. Gemara says, no, Gezeira shema yomru ma ikr, because people will think, if you allow that to work, people will think the money is important. V'zimnin de lo shchiach ma, and then sometimes they won't find money, they won't have money around. And then they're going to decide, well, we're not going to do it with bread. Because and then what's going to happen is the concept of Eruv is going to be forgotten. Rashi here explains, Eruv shumetzarfim, when you do an Eruv in order to join everyone together, time of mishum kinyan. The reason is it's because of acquisition. Shemakne lehu balabayis reshuso. The balabais is giving a little portion of his reshus, of his house. He's giving a little portion of that house to everybody. V'nimtzu kulam bailim b'bayis zeh. They're all like owners of his house. Sho Eruv munach bo where the Eruv is. V'chol chotzer meshubedes l'reshusam zu v'achasi. And the entire chotzer becomes meshubed to this one reshus, and it all becomes one. So why can't you use money? The money will make the kinyan in the property. So again, the answer is it's going to lead to a forgetting of how Eruv works, and that's why we don't allow money at all. So the Gemara now says, Rabba disagrees with Shmuel's opinion that Eruv works as kinyan. Rabba says Eruv mishum dira. Eruv works as residence. Rashi over here says, Mishum dira shadaito shel adam al pito. People think about where their bread is, and that's where they consider that they live. V'havilu kilu diary ba'u beis. It's as if they live in that house. Ve'in b'chatzer zu ala dira achas. Again, everyone's living in one house. V'harei kol rishos hachatzer miyuchedes l'bayis zeh. So according to Rabba, it's not that you're acquiring a portion in the house. It's that it's as if you live in the house because you think that you're living in the place where your food is. Gemara says, "My beinayu." What's the difference between these two opinions practically? Ika beinayu kli upachas mishava pruta. The difference between them is a kli, and let's say it's less than a shava pruta, and a minor. Rashi over here says, minor is going to be on the next page, but we'll take a look here in Rashi. Hachi garsinon ika beinayu kli v'shein bo shava pruta v'katan. Meaning, leman damer misham kinyan. According to the one who says it's an acquisition, yicholin liknos besudar. You could use a handkerchief, what we call a kinyan sudar, which a person picks up the handkerchief to make a kinyan, kederach shar kinyan, just like you do any other kinyan. Vein yicholin liknos bepas she'ein bo shava pruta. Also, you're not allowed to use a piece of bread that's less than a shava pruta, because that can't make a kinyan. Ve'afilu have a mazon beis sudas, even if it's 2 meals worth, if it's not a shava pruta, it can't make kinyanim. Also, ve'ein yachol asos hakatan shliach la'ariv olav. If it's a kinyan, a minor can't be a shliach to make the eruv chatzeros to lav bar mikne ve'aknuyehu. A katan in general cannot make kinyanim. Well, the one who says it has to do with the fact that you live in the place where your food is, lo mahani kinyan sudar. Obviously, a kinyan sudar is not going to work. You can use any food even if it's not worth a shava pruta. The katan gova so erev, and also a katan can collect the erev. The pas mashavilu chadadira, because it's the bread that's making the dira. The katan lav midiyavid. The katan's not making any kinyanim. He's just physically actually collecting the erev. We'll continue this discussion in the next video on Daf Memtes Amud Beis.